Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to talk about getting clear with your current money situation so that you could start this money journey. I decided to make this video because my little sister just landed her first full-time job out of college. So congrats to her. And being the sister that I am, somebody who loves personal finance, I was like, we need to sit down and have a money audit. Look at what you owe, understand your net worth. How are we going to make the most of this income that you're now gonna get? So that's what this video is. We're really gonna just give you basically the conversation I had with my little sister. If you're new here, I'm Danielle. I make videos on what I'm learning, what I'm doing on my journey to financial independence while still trying to have a good time. So if that kind of stuff interests you, if you're somebody who is thinking about financial independence, who just wants to see somebody else try to navigate that, then hit that subscribe button, like this video, and support my channel. But okay, let's get started on today's video. First things first, I had told her, I was like, let's open up that laptop and get a notes app. Nothing fancy, just open up your notes app and we're gonna list out your debts, your assets to come up with your net worth. What is your net worth? Why does it matter? Okay, net worth really just helps you understand where you're starting from. It doesn't, a lot of people in the personal finance community tie themselves to this net worth number. It's hard not to, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I've hit this, whatever. Your net worth is not your self-worth. So, but it is an important number to help us understand where we're starting off at. So I was like, open up that notes app and list all your debts. Everything from your student loans, credit cards, any other things that you owe people. List them out with the interest rate, the balance, the due date, minimum payment. This helps you understand what in the future you'll want to prioritize, and it gives you a feel for how much you're really paying to have and continue to hold these balances. After you've listed them out, and the process of listing them out, you're going to understand too, where to make those payments. So something, especially for those graduating college who have graduated, starting their first job, your place to have looked at what you took out for loans, your FAFSA website, that site is not going to be the same place you go to pay those loans off, right? That's a different service provider. And that's something that we kind of figured out with my sister. She was like, I don't know who I make these payments to. And so making out this list helped us figure out who her loan service provider was, and helps us understand who we need to pay for the debts that we have. Then we're going to make a list of all our assets. And sure, you're probably thinking, well, I just graduated. I'm about to start my first full-time job. I have no assets. And yes, chances are you probably have not hit your first 100K. Yes, that's true. But your assets could be some money that you have in savings accounts, money that you have sitting in your checking account, or, if you have money sitting in Venmo, please transfer that into a bank. But it's really just what you own, right? Any specific amount, I don't care how small, list it out. Checking account, savings account, you'd be surprised how this kind of makes you think about what accounts you have open. So list that out in your asset section. Then we're going to calculate the net worth, our assets minus our liabilities. If you are negative, that is fine. If you're somebody who just graduated and you're negative because you had student loans, that's okay. Let's not panic. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're getting clear on where we're starting so we know how to make changes, what to do next. The next piece to this is making a plan, right? Understanding, well, what do I need to tackle? And this is all very personal to whoever you are, whatever your priorities are. But I think the general consensus is you want to have an emergency as a starting point. An emergency fund helps you be able to kind of weather any storm that might come your way, right? So let's say this new job that you're starting lays you off in a month after starting. You want to make sure that you have something in your savings account to help you not use credit cards to pay for your life, right? And so having an emergency fund, they recommend 3 to 6 months. If you're just starting out, let's just hit that 3. let's hit that 3. Let's see what that looks like and like be okay with that and grow to the 6 months. And a thing here that I want to mention, and a lot of people always like spend a lot of time thinking about like, oh, which account should I like, which bank should I open a high yield savings account? Is you want to open a high yield savings account for your savings. Because of the interest rate that they are able to pay, it just makes sense to be able to have your savings somewhere earning money for you. It's not going to be like it's invested, right? You're not going to build wealth by putting money in a high yield savings account. You build wealth by investing. But having your money sit in a high yield savings account is better than having your money sit in a traditional bank because of that interest that they pay. So I'm going to put just screenshots of what you can expect at a traditional bank and what you can expect in terms of an interest rate at a high yield savings account so you can get an idea. Don't spend too much time thinking about which one you should open. I'm going to put a list in the description of some options for you, but just pick one and open it. And if you feel like transferring it later, you can do that later. The next piece to that, right, is like you have your emergency fund. Then you want to also think about like, do I want to tackle my debts or do I want to tackle my investing or do I want to do them both at the same time? This all, I think, depends on the interest rate of your debt, right? If you have credit card debt at 22% interest rate, you want to tackle that first. You want to tackle that first because that is expensive. It is costing you a lot of money to have that debt. But if you are, thinking about paying off your student loans really quickly and your student loan interest rate is at 2%, also think about investing. Think about investing. And you want to think about investing with what you have access to, right? If you're starting a new job, maybe you're going to get access to a 401k. If not, then you can open a Roth IRA. So think about it like that. Personally, when I started my money journey, I was really set on paying off my debt. And I don't think I would change that. I feel so good to not have any student loan debt, to be like fully debt free. But I also was investing at the same time. I wasn't investing a lot, but I started with like $100 a month. I was investing. And I think that is probably the same thing that I would do now. Maybe I'd invest a little more and extend the amount of months it takes me to pay off my debt. But I'm still happy that I did it the way I did. The next piece to like really being able to create a plan is to understand what your monthly spending is going to look like. Create a budget. A budget doesn't need to be boring. Budget doesn't need to be boring. Call it what you want. Call it a spending plan, but make a plan. Make a plan for your money. Really write out what you're going to be expected to pay every month. So I like to separate this by your needs and your wants, right? So what are your needs? Rent, transportation to get to your new job, food, groceries. You really need to eat something. And then your wants is like the eating out, the restaurant, that kind of stuff is a want. It's not a need. Yes, it's food, but it's not groceries. Getting your nails done, going to your fitness class, like those things are your wants. So make a list of what that looks like on a monthly basis so you kind of understand what you could expect to have to spend every month. The next component, and this is a big one that really, because my little sister hasn't started her job, we couldn't really talk about in full, but it's really trying to understand how you're going to split up your income. We don't know what her net is going to be because you can check your different calculators online to see like what your expected monthly income will be, but you won't really know until you get that first paycheck. The way that I like to do it is to pay myself first. When I think about my income, I think about, okay, income is that first row, and then I'm gonna deduct what I wanna save or invest on a monthly basis, and then everything else is like the spending. I make my goals the priority that comes out of the paycheck first, right? I don't do income, spending, and then maybe savings. That is how I pay myself first, right? Is by prioritizing my savings goals. Another method that a lot of people talk about, and I think could be good if you're just like starting out, is the 50-30-20. That means that you spend 50% of your income, your net income, on needs, 30% on wants, and then you save or invest the 20%. This is a really good, like, quick breakdown if you want something like, I don't want to think about specific numbers. Like, that's a good method to use. And how do you set this up? So the next phase really is like the set it and forget it. It's a good thing to not have to force yourself or remind yourself to save at the end of every month, because chances are you probably won't if that's the way you're doing it, right? If you're spending first and then on the 30th, you're like, oh yeah, I need to transfer money into my savings, maybe you're not going to save as much as you want to. So set it and forget it. I love to send direct deposits into different accounts, right? So normally you would be like, oh, I just direct deposit to one checking account, and then from there it goes wherever. I like to, and if your job offers this, add a second direct deposit. And I have a direct deposit for my checking. I have a direct deposit for my savings. They're going different places. What does that mean? That means I don't see the money coming into my bank account in my checking account if it's going to my high yield savings account in another login, right? I don't think about it as money that I can spend. So that's one way, just like directing your direct deposits to different accounts that prioritize whatever goals you have. Another way to do this is by setting those automatic payments to the loans that you might have to your debt, making sure they're just automatically getting paid so you don't have to think about them. Now, you could also automate the additional contributions and goals that you have, or you can do that manually. But I like to use the set it and forget it because it just makes it easier for you to save and invest without having to really force yourself into doing it. Set it and forget it can also come in handy if you have access to a 401k. You're gonna have to set it up, right? They ask you, what percentage do you want to contribute? Or maybe it's a specific amount. Set that and make sure it's invested. And then like that's just happening on its own, right? Every paycheck, you forget that you asked Fidelity to take out 10% from your paycheck. If you have a 401k, make sure you set up those contributions early. But that's kind of like the summary of what we went over. We still have a couple more like meetings to be had. So if you're watching this, you know we got to set up more time. But I really just wanted her to get a clear picture on like what does this mean? Like why do you have to like list this out and really think about this? So we had her do this on a notes app, just kind of put in all the numbers, but I created a spreadsheet for her and I'm going to share it with you. So I kind of want to just like give you a quick little tour on it because I'm going to give it to you for free in the description, but I think it's helpful. I think it was really helpful for me when I started my journey to like have my own place where I go in and I'm like, okay, this is how I'm thinking about it. So I created a Start Your Journey spreadsheet template. First tab, budget. Put in your income, monthly income. This is your net income. Then you put your monthly savings goals that you have here, your spending. I also did like a little budget breakdown for you. So here are your needs, your rent, your gas, transportation, all those things, and the total amount you could expect to pay, your wants. I also added a little calculation here to kind of do the 50, 30, 20 based on what you put in your total net income here. So check that tab out. Then I did a net worth breakdown. I would probably start with this. Doesn't really matter which one you do first, but here's kind of like that list again that we did on her notes app where we just listed all her assets, all her debts, just so we can get a clear picture of what it is. But also I made a little section here that helps us understand what do we want our savings goal for this specific account, for this specific debt to be. So that could be fun for you to look at, and then it'll calculate your net worth. So this hypothetical person has a negative net worth of $29,000. And then the third tab is a daily spending. This one I didn't really talk about, but it's so important to understand how you're spending, especially if you're starting your money journey. You need to know where your money is going. And I do this with an app today in this stage of my life. But when I first started out, my trusty spreadsheet, this was the place I went. And it was the place that got me like really clear on, was I prioritizing the things that I said that I wanted to prioritize? If not, where was I spending more money than I needed to? So tracking and manually tracking your spending is an important step. There's items and categories here based on whatever you put in your personalized spending category tab. So that's the spreadsheet that I gave myself. Sister, that's the spreadsheet that I'm sharing with you. And that is it for this video. I hope that you found this helpful. I hope that something came out of this. I know there's so many things that I didn't talk about in this video. There's so many different, more extensive things that like we can discuss if you're starting your money journey. Like, how do I even get started investing? But I think this is an important first step for now. If you found this helpful, if you learned something from it, share it with a friend, share it with your little sister, leave a comment, let me know what you thought. And if you're new here, subscribe. If you aren't new here and you watch my videos and you haven't subscribed, what are you doing? Please subscribe. But I will see you all next week. Thank you for watching. Bye.